Okay, everybody, in today's video, we're going to talk about our elevator pitch. Now, if we think about a networking group, and we'll kind of get into these slides as we go, our whole entire goal here is to get referrals from the other members in the group. And one of the things that we find in a lot of different settings is, if somebody, let's say, isn't in sales, maybe you're not in a role where you're really pitching your business to either other people, consumers, or other professionals. A lot of times we're like, well, I'm so and so, I do this, and that's it, right? It doesn't really go any further. And one of the things that we really need to do for the other group members, right, is to give them something to listen for. Because if we just say, let's say for an example, real estate, I'm a real estate agent, and the best person for me is somebody that's looking to buy or sell a house. Well, sometimes people don't necessarily say those direct words to you as a friend or a colleague or somebody you might not even know. And so it's really hard sometimes for other group members to refer you business because they're not really out there listening for the correct things, right? They're listening for this one specific thing that they think, or maybe that you've said, that a lot of times doesn't actually get said. And when we think about our 60-second, and sometimes it's 30 to 90 seconds, but about a 60-second introduction, or what we call the elevator pitch, we really need to craft something that allows the rest of the group members to really listen for real life events. And we're going to give you some examples as we go through this. But a couple of things that we want to handle really quickly, and we're showing on this slide, is this is not a sales pitch, okay? So this is not something that you're in the group and you're doing your elevator pitch that you're trying to sell to the group members themselves. You're trying to give them some training. Because really, these people, these 20, 30, 40 people that are in our group are out there every single day listening and talking to other people that might be a great referral for you. But if you don't give them something to, or a few things to really listen for, then a lot of times it makes it really hard. And these are all like your non-commission. If you think about this sales force of 20, 30, 40 people that are around your town, or with the people that you need to talk to, you really need to think about, okay, what can I give them as training of things to listen for. Okay, so a lot of times when we do that, it's not only just what they're listening for, but kind of an idea in their head, things to look for, situations that they're in. How can we identify ways that we can refer you? Because a lot of times that person isn't going to come across somebody that's going to directly say, hey, do you know somebody that can help me with blank, whatever that is. I don't care if you're insurance. I don't care if you're in, mortgages or real estate, or if you have a flower shop or a plumber, any of that kind of stuff. We need to give them things that they can actually use, and pictures in their mind and phrases that they're actively listening for as they're going through their day-to-day stuff. So as we go through this, I really want you to take some notes, because we should be spending, I would probably say, a minimum of 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes thinking about what we're going to do and actually writing it out. Okay, that's one of the other things that we find a lot of group members do, is they really don't write it out and they don't practice it. So when they do come to the group and give their elevator pitch that week, it's kind of mumbly, it's kind of fumbled, and they're just kind of winging it. And we don't want you to wing it, because the whole point that, again, the reason why you're part of this group is because you want to be here to network with other professionals and actually get referrals as we go through this. So I want you to grab a pen and paper, maybe pause the video if you haven't already. Go grab a pen and paper and really take some notes, and not only just take notes, but jot down ideas as we go through this. So that way, as soon as we're done with this video, you can spend that, 20, even 30 minutes writing this out. So that way, as you're going through the week and when you attend the next event, you can easily and effectively communicate to the other group members who they can actually refer to you. Okay, so a couple of notes before we get started is this is a 60-second introduction, and most people speak about 160 to about 180 words per minute. Okay, so when you really need to take that into account, because when we're all giving our elevator speeches and we're at our networking group, whether that's in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening, we don't want to go over by an extra minute. I know there's some people that are really direct and to the point, and then we have some chatty Cathys that, you give them a couple, a minute, they're going to take 3. We don't want to do that, because we want to respect everybody else's time. So as you're going through this, I would even say, after you've taken some notes, and kind of written down some ideas, jump into a Word document on Microsoft Word or even Google Docs, and it has a word counter at the very bottom that you can see about how long this is. And you want to be shooting for right around that 150 to about 200 words or so. So that way you're right around that 60-second mark when we're doing our elevator speeches, okay? So the way we're going to look at this is we want to give you a little bit of a framework and kind of a couple of different steps. And we actually left one off here, but there's really 4 steps: your name and company and who you are, what you do, what you sell, offer, or specialize in, the benefits, and then we're going to talk a little bit about, who that perfect client is. Okay, so kind of 4 different parts of this elevator speech that we're going to craft. So the really simple part is your name and company name, right? Like, I'm Richard, I'm a real estate agent, or hey, my name is Richard, I'm with my financial, I do, retirement, or I do, sell flowers, or whatever that is. That's the very first part. So that's really the easiest part. You really don't got to take a lot of notes in that part. You just kind of write that piece out. What do you do? What do you sell? What do you offer? And what do you specialize in? So the reason why we kind of give you a couple of different prompts, and as we go through this, you're going to see that we kind of give you different prompts of things that you could possibly fill in, because everybody's business is just a little bit different. Okay. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits, kind of like what you can do for me, or, when we're going through this, what you can do for that prospective referral as well. So kind of benefit statements for my clients, I either. So this is kind of where a bulk of your elevator pitch are really going to be in 2 sections. This section, and then the perfect client for me is, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes, but these are 7 different things that you can kind of think out. And this is kind of where that 10 to 15, 20 minutes that I'm talking about spending is really spent in this section and the other section, because this is where we need to make it real life, right? And so there's 7 different things. We can either make somebody money, we can save them money, we can save them time, we can make them feel secure, we can reduce their stress, or we can make them look good or make them feel good. And when you think about these things, what I want you to do is I want you to take a pen and paper, and maybe even write these out, and just write them in a line. So you could pause the video right here if you wanted to write these down. And then on the other side of the piece of paper, not necessarily flip it over, just kind of, left to right, I want you to write the word how. Because this is kind of where you kind of are going to fill in the blanks of how you do these 3 things. And I want you to just choose 2 or 3 things. And we're going to give you an example here in just a second of things that you can do. So you're not going to necessarily write 7 of these, because then your elevator speech is going to be, way longer than it really needs to be. We want to just pick 2 or 3 things that are the things that we, again, sell, offer, or specialize in. And we're going to talk a little bit about those in kind of a present tense, where we're saying exactly what we actually do. Okay, so I want you to just write these down really quickly, and then on the other side of the paper, I want you to write how, and then I want you to just jot down some ideas down, because if we get this part right, it really conveys to the other members what you specifically do, outside of just like I sell flowers or I sell real estate. Those are really broad, and we don't want to be too vague or too broad, because then it doesn't give everybody else in the group that real good opportunity to be referring us business. So go ahead, write these down really quickly. On the other side of the piece of paper, write how, and then just jot down some notes. And sometimes, we've had some members that can jot down one for each of these. Other times it's like, okay, well, hey, really I only focus on 2 of these, and that's totally fine. We've even had some members where it's like, hey, this is specifically what I do, and by saving somebody money, and this is exactly how. So don't be afraid to, elongate it. But again, we're still shooting for that 160 to 180 words that we're going to have to actually talk about over that 60 seconds that we're going to give the elevator pitch. So take a minute and actually go through this. So here's an example. And this one, what we're going to use it for real estate. And I know, sometimes it's like, okay, well, that's a really easy one. And it kind of is, but it really gives, most people a really good sense of how this can actually work, because most people, and I'm not going to say everybody, have gone through the home buying process. And so they kind of know what they're looking for in a realtor. and what they're really looking to bring to the table. So if we just kind of read this out, and this is kind of what you're going to need to do as you jot down those ideas and put it in a Word document, is kind of start typing this out. And I would really challenge you to make sure that you actually sit down and do this, because a lot of times, again, when you're newer to the group, nobody knows you, right? We just met you as of the group members, and we really want to understand what it is exactly that you do, not just one sentence. So as we go through this right here, my name is Richard Paul. I'm with XYZ Realty. I'm a residential real estate agent. I specialize in residential real estate in the Portland, Oregon area. Okay, so right there, it's kind of just honing into where you specialize in. Sometimes maybe you might specialize in a couple of different states, but for most people that are in a lot of our groups, it's very, very hyper local. And obviously, again, this is real estate. And so let's go through a little bit more. I'm a skilled negotiator. If you're selling a home, I will do everything I can to get you the best possible price. If you're buying a home, I will do everything I can to get you the lowest price possible. There's 550 homes on the market currently here in Portland. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually interview you, see exactly what you guys are looking for. And then I'm going to narrow that down to 6, maybe 8, 10 homes that are available. And then we're going to take a nice Sunday drive and take a look at those. So if we really break this statement down, right, this is one paragraph here. It's not super long. Obviously, you heard that we can read this in 20, 25 seconds or less, depending on how slow or fast you want to talk, because sometimes it is a good idea to kind of slow down sometimes, especially when you're doing this at first, just to make sure that those words are really conveyed. But if we break this down, we talked a little bit about who you are, who you're with, and what you actually do. So I'm a real estate agent, and I specialize in residential real estate here in the Portland, Oregon area. And when we get into this next section, I'm a skilled negotiator. So if you're buying a home or selling a home, I'll do everything to get you the best possible price. If you're buying a home, I'm going to do everything that I can do to get the lowest price possible. And so we talk about two of those things, right? Where if you go into this, we just spoke about how I'm going to make you money by saying that, hey, if you're buying a house, this is what I'm going to do. And if you're selling a house, this is what I'm going to do, right? And then we're going to talk about how we can save them time. So if you look at a lot of these small examples, it's something that you can really just easily craft. And again, when you go back to those 7 points, if we fly up here really quickly, I make them money, I save them money, I save them time. Just those 3 points gave us an entire paragraph, but we didn't say, hey, I'm going to make you by doing this, or I'm going to save you money by doing this, or I'm going to save you time by doing this. We actually just talked about it in kind of a real life example. Okay, so I want you to take just a few minutes and actually write that out. And a lot of times when you're going through this video, I just pause it, write some ideas out, and then keep going through it. And I challenge you to go through this video a couple of times, because if you do that, it's going to work out a lot better for you. So that way you can do it. Now, this next section also is a super crucial section that we need to spend time on. And the reason why we need to spend time on it is because this is where the rubber meets the road, right? We're all here to get referrals from our other group members, and we need to give them word for word quotes of what people are going to say. So an example here, kind of a bad example would be, I'm a real estate agent and I specialize in helping people sell houses. So, one thing that we would probably not want to say is a perfect client for me is someone to look at or buy or sell a house. Well, again, when we come back to it, there's a lot of people that are not, if we were looking for a referral, that referral, Joe and Susie Smith or whoever is not going to come to those other professionals and say, hey, who do you know that can help me buy, sell, or refinance? So what we're really looking to do is we're looking to give them real life examples of things to listen for. Because if we give them exact things to listen for, where they're out and about on a daily basis, listening to conversations and what other people are saying, we can give them some things to be like, oh, hey, you know what? I need to refer them to Rich. Why? Because they said this, but they didn't necessarily come to me and say, hey, do you know someone that can help me buy or sell or refinance or something like that? Okay. So we need to really give them specific things to look at for. And so in this example, and I'm going to give you a couple examples, if you're a realtor, you can easily say, hey, a perfect client for me is this person. So if you're in a coffee shop and you're overhearing somebody talk, or if you're in a conversation, you're at a family gathering and you overhear two people having a conversation, they say these words, or whether they're having a conversation with another person or they're having a conversation directly with you, you can listen for these things. So things like, hey, I'm getting married. I'm getting a divorce. I just lost my job, or hey, we just got pregnant. Congratulations. So people, maybe you went to a baby shower. It's like perfect opportunity to interject yourself into this conversation, because now you've listened for something, you've identified something. Now you can easily say, hey, would you be open to talking with Rich? What are we, however you're going to make that introduction. I've recently been relocated, or my husband's being relocated, or my wife, my kids are going off to college. The thing that we're looking for in this example right here are life events, because a lot of times when it doesn't really matter who you're going to be referring to or what the situation is, a lot of things are going to hover around a life event. And so it doesn't matter what type of business you are, you need to identify, or take a few minutes and identify, okay, so my clients or the people that I'm taking care of, the problems that I'm solving for somebody usually hover around these things, right? Wherever those are for you. And so in this case, it's a realtor. And so a lot of times when somebody's looking to buy, sell, or refinance, it has to do with some of these events right here, right? So if somebody, you just went to a wedding, perfect opportunity. Hey, you just talked to your friend or your family member and they're getting divorced, perfect opportunity, right? So a lot of these things are things that we need. The reason why I say you need to take 10, 15, 20 minutes and really think this out, because if we don't do this, then a lot of times, we come to the group week after week after week, month after month, and we're not getting very many referrals. And a lot of times it's because we're not being laser focused and laser clear, giving our other group members things to actually listen for. And so if they don't have like a picture or something they're listening for, a picture in their head, a lot of times these opportunities just pass them right by, right? So like maybe they just went to a wedding and they were talking with the spouses, the grooms, or and the brides, or however you want to do that. Then a lot of times it's like, well, it didn't come up because it didn't fire something in their brain of what to actually look for. And that's so why is this so crucial? And this is why we do this training, is because a lot of times people will come to groups and networking groups, say, okay, yeah, well, I didn't get very many referrals. I'm like, well, who did you tell them to look for besides just saying what you do? And that's where a lot of people don't get very detailed with it and really think out their own avatar as far as who their ideal client is and what that client might be going through for all of us to listen for. So this is a really great example. So take a few minutes, kind of, think about who it is that you service, the problems that you solve, and when they actually arise. So that way you can kind of craft these different events. And when you're giving our elevator speech to the group, you're able to actually convey that. So another one would be like, let's say somebody was selling, printers and fax machines. Well, if you were just to say something like, well, hi, I'm Richard and I sell printers and fax machines. So if you ever know anybody that needs to, buy a printer or a fax machine, have them give me a call. Well, a lot of times it's like, well, when does somebody want to buy a new fax machine or a copier machine, things like that, because a lot of times it's not going to pop up in our brains that we need to refer this over to Rich because this thing happened and this might be a good referral for them. So if you hear like this is a perfect example, hey, if you hear, perfect client for me would be blank. If you hear somebody in a coffee shop and they're saying, whatever it is, then that's who we would like to meet. So in this case, it'd be like, next time maybe you go to an office and you're at your, colleague's office or friends or family's office, and you walk by the copier and you see a whole bunch of garbage right next to the copier. Well, there's two reasons that somebody, might have a whole entire garbage can full of paper. Why? Because if they're using the copier, well, then guess what? There's two reasons. Either the copier is not doing what it needs to be, or if you've ever used a copier, a lot of times these things jam up. So it's like, that's something that, that event, it's not necessarily a life event when we were back here, when we were talking about a realtor, it's just something that they can visually see. So, hey, anytime you're in an office, well, it might be even your office, right? And you're at the copier, like, you know what? Hey, this thing's always full. Why is this always full? Well, because anytime we make a copy of it, it didn't do a very good job, or it jammed up and we got to throw that, those pieces of paper away. It's something for them that while they're going through their day-to-day actions, that they'll be able to identify, hey, you know what? Maybe they need to talk to Rich because guess what? This thing just doesn't work. Okay, well, let's go ahead, talk to the person that, buys these in the office, and let's get them over to Rich so that way they can connect. Right. So these are just two examples. We're not going to go through too many of them, or else this training kind of get fairly long. But these are things that you want to sit down and identify, because this is right here Perfect example. One of them is kind of life events, and this is kind of day-to-day events that are easily identified. But if you don't tell the rest of the group that this is what we're looking for, that they don't know what they're looking for. And the reason why I want you to spend time on this is because if you can't convey to us who you need, and the things that are surrounding that person, then a lot of times we're not going to refer to you, because I could be, going over to somebody's office and I'm not going to identify that they need a new printer, or a new fax machine, or a new copier, because you didn't tell me, well, hey, just go ahead and look at the garbage can whenever you're at an office. Just look at the garbage can, and if you see a garbage can full of paper, then it's like ding, right? It just fires in our brain to say, okay, hey, this is a perfect situation and I need to get Rich involved. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to take the next 15-20 minutes. You've already gone through this video. I would go through it at least another time, if not 2 times, because the more you work on this and the more laser focused you get your elevator pitch, the easier it is for everybody else in the group to refer to you. And that's exactly why we're here. We're all here to help each other build each other's businesses. And that means all of us need to know what you do, what you specialize in, and the perfect ideal client for you. But you need to give us real life examples, so that way we know exactly what to look for. So if you have any questions, go ahead and talk with your hosts, or if you need a one-on-one, we can absolutely do that as well. But take the next 15-20 minutes. You've already watched the video, watch it another time, maybe fly through it, look at the slides that we outlined, talk about, for my clients, I either do this, or this, make those statements, and then go ahead and write out, who that perfect client is for you. So that way, when you come back to the group next week, you're able to convey that, and we can get a better chance of referring to you. So if you have any other questions, let us know, or we will see you in the next video.